Hey everyone, my name's Kenny, or KP on a lot of the Discord servers, and I'm about to show you guys Scrap, which is a game I've been working on for the last 8 months. For reference, the art in the game is not final. There's about 7 pieces of art which I have commissioned, but the rest of it is taken from the internet, so please don't judge the game based on that. It is beautiful art, but it's not mine, so please be aware of that. The other thing is that the game is currently in version 0, it's probably about the 30th or so update, but the version number is 0.10.3. So there's still a long way to go. There are many systems that I'm quite happy with and many systems that I'm tinkering as we go along. So I'm not going to go into great detail over systems unless it's something I'm very confident in. So, what is Scrap? Scrap is an asymmetric 4x game where players will be programming their moves in advance in order to try and dominate the world. You play a line of robots that have just obtained sentience on a planet made by an ancient race called the Protobots. They've now gone extinct because of an event called the Spark, which also, coincidentally, made all of you guys wake up and gain sentience. Now that you're intelligent, what do? You're trying to take over the world and improve yourselves as much as possible. So the objective of the game is to get to 15 victory points, but the way that you do that is by making buildings to improve your economy, by researching techs in order to improve yourselves, by demonstrating your prowess in battle in order to learn and become more effective combatants, and finally by studying the secrets of the planet in order to learn just how the Protobots did what they did. So I'll get into some of the major mechanisms now. If you look over here, any of the big robot art you'll see is final. If the backgrounds, however, are not. They have been taken from other places. But my artist has done a beautiful job on them, and I really, really like them. So the main driving force of the game is your functions and your program. At the start of the game, you'll choose 3 functions and put them in a row like so. From then on, each turn, you'll be resolving your rightmost function, moving it to the discard pile, shuffling your other 2 along, and then placing a new function from your hand into the last slot here. You, of course, choose them from a hand of cards. It's not random. Eventually, you'll run out of cards to play, or you'll decide, I don't want to do any of these actions anymore, at which point you'll resolve a reboot action, which will return all of your cards to your hand. But unfortunately, you don't perform any other action on that turn. The action economy in the game is very tight. Every turn really does matter. Every turn where you're not getting value out of your turn really does feel like you've missed out. So you have to try and think ahead and be very efficient about what you're doing. And the programming really helps you get into the theme of the robots. In addition, because of the way the programming works, you get to feel really clever quite often when you pull off certain maneuvers, because you have to think about what the game state will look like in a turn or two, which is not as hard and daunting as it may seem. You really do have to think about that and plan and understand what's going to happen. So, what actions can you do in the game? Well, there's a few simple ones. So you can move your bots around the planet, discovering new locations. Not all of these are face up at the start of the game. Many of them are face down. These new locations will let you place buildings on them, or perhaps they'll have nothing, or perhaps they will contain more secrets for you to dig up. Or perhaps you'll find the remnants of the Protobot Empire. I'll get to that a little bit more later on. As you move around the map, you'll encounter other players' bots, and you can share areas with other players' bots. You don't have to fight them. Of course, you very well may want to. And when you fight, you'll simply take a number of dice equal to your strength in the combat, roll them, and resolve the combat based on that. There are a few different icons in the battle. I won't go into the specifics, but strength helps you win the battle, damage kills your opponent's bots, research lets you draw cards from the opposing player's tech deck, which I'll get to in just a moment, and shields help keep your bots alive. That's the summary of combat. There is a question mark symbol, which is determined by your directive. So you do have a directive which influences, or it kind of determines how you're approaching the world during the current program. Directives serve to boost up certain functions. So if you look in the top left corner, you'll see an icon. If your function has that icon, you'll receive a powered up ability. So for example, if you use the assemble function while in create mode, then you'll get a bonus drone or a big bot at one of your factories. Speaking of which, sorry, I've jumped around a little bit because there's a lot of interconnecting systems in this game. I'm just going to jump back to the movement for a moment. So moving, engaging, combat, that's all done and dusted. Um, After that, one of the other major mechanisms is building. So there are three types of buildings in the game. Factories help you build more robots, labs help you research more tech, and generators help you run your programs more smoothly and give you a few options. Factories, as I said, pretty simple. They just let you deploy more bots. Labs, however, are tied to the tech deck, and that's I mentioned before. In combat, you can study your opponent's techs. Techs represent powerful new upgrades that you can get for your bots. So these are asymmetric player powers that you'll develop over the course of the game. There's a wide variety of them, and they do lots of different things. Um, in addition to those asymmetric techs, you'll also start with abilities that are match your own faction. You'll start with a strength, a weakness, and a unique bot that you can deploy. And the strength and the weakness are tied together. So it's not that you're good at combat and bad at science. Instead, you're good at combat, but you're also bad at combat. Or you're good at science, but you're also bad at science in some way. You just do things differently. For example, Cerebrum are observers. They're great at getting into combat and studying other people and learning their techs, but they're not actually so good at winning the combats. So you're often at risk and not as harmful to other people. So you have to balance those two things. Take advantage of the fact that you do learn better in combat, but at the same time, be very careful because you could find yourselves eliminated from the game. To confirm, there is no player elimination, but you can, over the course of the game, get yourselves in pretty tight situations. One of the other things, as I said, that's pretty common with each faction is the big bots. So as you can see, the gorgeous artwork here, each faction has big bots that they can acquire, which are really fun. They remind me a lot of the big monsters in things like Blood Rage, Rising Sun, Cthulhu Wars, all games which are inspirations for Scrap. Of course, over the course of the game, you can also find new big bots that you can deploy as well by scavenging through the ruins of the planet and restoring some of the protobots to life. Trying to think what else I haven't covered. So we've got tech, we've got factories, we've got generators, we've got functions, we've got power-ups, we've got combat. That's most of the major mechanisms in the game. The last one, of course, is the protobot encounters, which I mentioned before. So as you discover the remnants of the Empire, you'll have quirky encounters. For example, Cult of the Cannon. You spy a group of protobots parading around a mighty-looking cannon. They seem to be chanting something about how the plasma rain will bring about the restoration of the Empire. You may choose to swear your life to bringing about the plasma rain. If you do, acquire Atom and place it into play. Otherwise, engage the protobots. And I'm curious, I'm not going to show you what any of those results are, but what would you guys do? Would you guys join the Cult of the Cannon, or do you think they need to be purged from the planet? And that's the nature of a lot of those events. They create longer lasting effects on the game. Nothing too major, they're not entirely game warping, but you really do feel the story develop over the course of the game, or at least that's the intention. That pretty much is a summary of all of the different mechanisms in the game. As far as what the aims of the game are, so it's intended to be 3 to 4 players, 40 minutes per player. It's a medium to heavyweight game. I'd probably put it in the middle of the two. It's heavier than a game like Rising Sun or Blood Rage, for example, because there's a lot more moving parts, there's tech, there's economy, so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's not a super duper heavy game. A lot of the mechanisms are easy to understand, and a lot of the feedback that I've gotten has been it's actually quite simple to play. Understanding everything in the game is not hard once you've got it going. So the game is supposed to be deep rather than complex. There's a lot of replayability built into the game because of the different factions having different tech decks, and each faction being able to draw from each other player's tech deck. You'll have different interactions and different power combinations in each and every game that you play. In addition, there are more functions, which I did forget to mention, more functions which you can acquire over the course of the game. They'll be in set piles, and they are also different. So there are different strategies that might be available in some games. Really, as I said, the game is just all about replayability. Scrap is intended to be that game that you come back to time and time again. And that's really what that's really the type of game I'm trying to develop. It is not a lifestyle game in the sense that you're not going to be buying hundreds of expansions or anything like that. The base box is intended to be fairly generous. And if you just get the base box, I hope you have a lifetime of fun. I have designed it to be fairly modular so that adding more stuff to the game is possible if it ends up being successful. Um, but really, as I said, the base game should give you more than a lifetime of fun in the one box. Just to show off some of the gorgeous art again, because I fanboy over all of this art as well. So we've got Vesta, who's the large robot for Meteora, which is one of the factions. We've got the Meteora drones, which I think are so cool and so quirky, which we can zoom in on. We've got the surgeon from Cerebrum, who likes to perform lobotomies on other bots and find out their secrets. We've got probably the cutest robots ever, the Cerebrum drones. We've got Flux, who's seen the future and knows that if they are not in charge, then humans will come and conquer the planet. So they're trying to keep all of the other robots away in order to ensure that humanity never succeeds in taking control of the planet. You've got Tachyon drones, and the last unit I'll show you for now, because the last bit of art that is actually finished, are the Forge drones. So there's a lot of flavor behind each of the factions as well. They're intended to be quirky in their own way. The theme is not heavy. You're not murderous robots just trying to go on a rampage and kill everything. It's not, dark cyber sci-fi. It's very lighthearted and fun. Some of the inspirations for the game actually are things like Star Wars and the droids, Wall-E. As someone pointed out the other day, Ratchet and Clank actually, the video games are almost like an inspiration for this because of the way the worlds and the quirkiness work. But that should give you guys a good idea about what's in the game. As far as wanting to come and play Scrap, just reach out. So I'm often on the paddle server, which means you can find me there. Or, again, sorry, to clarify, shout out to the paddle. They've been great and really welcoming in having me there. I'm not trying to use their platform as an advertising service at all. I often hang out there because it's great fun and it's a great community. I have my own Discord server, which I'll put in the description. And you can also find me on Discord just through KP number 7303. I'm always happy to show you. I have a lot of time, and this is my baby. So I'm more than happy to show it to everyone and show you how beautiful and how ugly it is in points. And I'd love for you to tell me how to raise my baby better and make my game better. So that pretty much brings it to an end today. So I'll sign off for now, but I'd look forward to seeing you guys sometime if Scrap is a game that sounds interesting to you. I'm KP, and this was Scrap. Have fun gaming, guys.